Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. I have just tried recording this video quite a few times and it's just not editing. It's not keeps cutting quite early, so I'm going to be quick about this. It's not going. It's just my Premier League predictions. So it's back. I'm so excited for it to be back. I am rushing this video a bit because I want to make sure it's short so I can save it and post it. So 20th place, I've gone for Hull. Unfortunately, they came up as the playoff team. They haven't got the greatest of squads, and this league is quality, and you need to be up to it. You've had other teams come up in the league, like Sunderland, for example, last season, and they thrived. And I just think that Hull City will struggle to adapt. 19th, I've gone for Ipswich. They're going through a transition phase as well with their new manager, as well as being back in the Premier League. Gary O'Neill's back. Again, league quality of the squad isn't as good as it needs to be. They have got some decent players like Jack Clark, and they've signed other players like Daizen Maeda and Issa Diop. But I think they'll struggle to adapt. Gary O'Neill hasn't had the greatest of success in the Premier League, and I just think they will go back down. 18th place to come for Crystal Palace. New manager, big transition phase. They've got Europa League football to look forward to this season, and I think that'll take a lot of their focus up. They've obviously got a significantly weakened squad. Gahey obviously went a while ago, as well as other players like Elise and Eze. Mateta's still there, as well as Wharton, but they're both kind of linked away with the move. Lacroix's left. They have got a decent squad, but I just unfortunately see them going down. They're struggling with squad depth as well. 17th place Coventry. I think they'll scrape up. I had to put at least one of the Premier League, new Premier League teams, but promoted teams to survive, and I think I decided Coventry. Best chance. They've got a Premier League manager. He's got experience. They've got the likes of Haji Wright, Matt Grimes. They've signed the likes of Carl Rushworth on a permanent deal, and they've got some very, very other good deals that I can think of. And I have Coventry staying up. I rate them as a team, and I think they have a good chance at least for one season. And 16th, I've got Fulham, new manager again. A lot of the teams will struggle with their new managers. Arbeloa had an interesting time at Real Madrid, but he's brought a few players across, Cesar Palacios and Gonzalo Garcia. Fulham's biggest problem is goals. They've lost Harry Wilson and Raul Jimenez, and I just think they've got a very good defence and the midfield's decent as well, but goals will be a problem, and I unfortunately think that is the reason that they finished 16th. Then at 15th, I've got Newcastle. They've lost a lot of big names. Obviously, Howie's left, and they've been replaced with Matthias Jaisel. I think that's how you say it. But they've also lost Gordon, Tonali, and Guimaraes this window, as well as obviously the knock-on effect of Isak last season. And Jaisel's got a big job getting his team firing because he's got to get big names like Voltamada, Visa, Elanga, and even other players like firing. And obviously got to sort out the squad as to who he's keeping and who he's selling. And in 14th, just above them, I've got their City. They're not City. They're rivals Sunderland next to them in 14th. They've got European football. That'll be their big focus. The first time in 53 years. They'll want to focus on that. They'll just be focused on staying up. They've got some decent squad depth, and they've got good players like Brobby, Xhaka, Roofs, Talby. But they will focus on football, European football, maybe go on a cup run as well. And I just think Premier League will come towards the end of their priorities, because they can just manage staying up. Then in 13th, Nottingham Forest, they've got a new manager as well, Glasner. I think he will do a good job in the future, but they need to be patient with him, because that's been their biggest problem is ownership, and Marinakis just keeps firing managers. I'm not even sure why Vitor Pereira got sacked or left, because he actually kept them up, and they had the good season at the end. But they've lost the big signing name of Elliot Anderson, but they've kept names like Morgan Gibbs-White, and they've also got other players like Chris Wood, Nikola Milenkovic, Matt Sells. And I just think Forest, 13th is a good spot for them. Not like high mid-table, not low mid-table. Then in 12th, we've got Everton. I think, David Moyes has done a decent job. They've been kind of consistent. They will maybe fight for Europe towards the start of the season, but at the end they'll make dip off. The big thing he's got to do is get Beto and Tierno Barry firing, because they were not as good as the Premier League quality should have been, and they didn't get enough goals. They've got other players like Iliman Ndiaye and Tyler Dibbling, and they need to get them firing too. But they've got good defense, good midfield, and decent attack if they can just get their strikers firing. Then in 11th place, I've got Bournemouth. They've got some fantastic players, the likes of Ryan, Alex Scott, and they've signed other players like Antonio Silva to replace Senesi. The only big downfall for them is Krupi Jr. is obviously gone. Not gone, he's injured for 4 months. But they've got European football to enjoy. That'll be their big focus. I just think, mid-table, they'll go back to whereabouts they've been. Don't think they'll have a drastic fall off, but yeah, 11th is a suitable spot for Bournemouth. Then in 10th, I've got Leeds United. Had a great season under Daniel Farke last season. They've got, a good mix of experience, the likes of Calvert Lewin and Anton Stack, but they've got youngsters like Tanaka, I think, is relatively young, I might be wrong with that, and they've got Harry Wilson, obviously, he's joined, and the other two big signings at the back are James Trafford in goal, who finally gets a chance, and Tariq Muharemovic from Sassuolo, the Bosnian defender. So, I think Leeds actually will be the surprise package. I've said 10th, they could go higher. I think they will thrive and have a good season. Just hope they don't go down because they were disappointing towards the start of last season, but then absolutely shot up the table and got big results against like Liverpool 3-3 and Man United. They beat them at Old Trafford the first time since 1981. So yeah, Leeds United 10th, but could definitely be higher. Then in ninth place, I've gone for Brentford. I like them as a team. I think they have had a good rise under Keith Andrews. He proved himself as a Premier League manager. I'd like them to go higher. I'd like them to get into Europe. They're one of the few teams who've had Europe rises this season, but haven't got into Europe just yet. I'm hoping Keith Andrews can keep Thiago firing. It'd be sad to see him as a one-season wonder, but their defence is relatively solid, like Kelleher and Collins and Ayer and Van den Berg. They just need to maybe get one more centre back as a high-quality centre back. Good midfielders. They've not had too many big acquisitions, I'd say. I think they signed that Malian midfielder Sangare, who's a good signing from RC Loans. But yeah, Brentford ninth, maybe just miss out on Europe again. Unfortunately, last season was goal difference. It might be tighter this season if they can if Thiago can score some more goals. Then eighth, I've gone for Brighton. I think they've got Conference League football. In fact, they are playing right now as I speak. I think it would be nice for them to get back into Conference League again and maintain it. And Fabian Hirschler had a mixed season last season. European football could definitely knock them down to maybe 14th or 15th. But I just see Brighton maybe getting. I think they'll focus on trying to win the Conference League, but they have got a decent squad. They've obviously lost Danny Welbeck and Jan Paul Van Hecke, but they replaced Van Hecke with Vuskovic. They've got Evan Ferguson, I think, is back from his loan at Roma, and they've also got Karalampos Kostulas, who's a good signing, as well as the great goalkeeper in Verbruggen, who I really like. And they've got versatile players like Jack Hinchelwood, and then also Pascal Gross has got some experience there. So I've got Brighton in eighth. Then in seventh, up 10 places from last season and the last 2 seasons, in fact, I've got Tottenham. I think there is no excuse for the season, for the players they've got to have the season they had last season. They've got Robertson, they've got Senesi, they've got Van Hecke, they've sold Vicario and Kinski's, they've loaned Vicario out and Kinski's then the starting keeper, which is a good decision. And the big signings they've made are Tonali and Matthias Fernandes in midfield, and they're even looking at Gakpo from Liverpool in left wing, which would be an annoying signing from Liverpool, but I wouldn't mind if they use the money for Barcola. But yeah, Tottenham would be a big signing for them as well. And yeah, they can if they they've got the experience that they need now. If they finish any lower than 10th, I'd say De Zerbi's got to be blamed, but he is a good manager and I rate him, so I think he'll be fine. Then in 6th, I've got Chelsea. They're having a transition phase. They've got Xabi Alonso, who's a quality manager, but he's got a very interesting squad to manage because he's got about 500 players, including academy players as well. They've got, amongst those names, they've got some very big players like Rodgers, Palmer. They've got, I'm trying to forget now, Joao Pedro, there's another one I've forgotten. And Caicedo, again, fantastic midfield. Defence is just a bit shaky. They lost Cucurella now. But if they can get a good left back, if they've got Palestra and other players now, and if they can get maybe a good goalkeeper as well, I think would be a big signing for them and an important signing. But yeah, I think Xabi Alonso is a quality manager. He got unlucky with Real Madrid because there was just such ego problems. But yeah, Chelsea to finish 6th, just their transition phase. It's a good start for them and under Alonso. Then in 5th, not so good a start for the Man City manager. I've gone for Man City in 5th under Maresca. It isn't his fault. Man City need to be patient with him, I think, in my opinion. He is a very good manager, but Pep Guardiola, was at Liverpool. Not Liverpool. Sorry, I'm looking at the thing. He was at Man City for 10 years. He brought success on for 10 years, and yeah, they've got to be patient with Maresca because he's obviously managing a squad that's been, some of the players like Semenyo and Gahey might even have come along just to be managed by Pep Guardiola, and then obviously he's left after 6 months. But I hope that he can get the job done. 5th would be a decent spot for them. I'd say it probably is Champions League, and yeah, 5th for Man City, and then hopefully next season they'll bounce back. And in 4th, I've got Villa. They have lost some big players with the likes of Rodgers. Obviously, he's gone. Martinez has no idea where he's going because they've signed Zion Suzuki in goals. Again, a good signing, but Martinez probably needs to go because they've got Marco Bizot as a backup, and he won't want to be a backup as well. And then obviously, I think Ollie Watkins is linked of a move away to Saudi, and Konza set for a medical at Arsenal. So they have lost some big players, but they've got some other quality players like Buendia. They've got Onana's out injured, but they've got Saman Zambi, which is a great signing. And they have lost Tielemans as well. But, I don't know what it is. I just feel like Villa thrive. I mean, they could even challenge for the title. But, yeah, 4th for Villa. 3rd, again, another team going through a transition. I've gone for Liverpool, my team. I do want them to do well. I was actually going to say 1st, but I just don't know what to predict with them. They're a very hard team to predict because they've got, these quality players like Wirtz, Isak, Kerkez, Frimpong. but they weren't firing last season. And then the player that was firing last season, Ekatike, is injured. So, it's hard to predict. We've signed Munoz, Jacquet, Araujo, two good defensive signings there. Jacquet looked absolutely fantastic on his debut against Como. Yep. So I would like, and I rate Ariel as manager. He's got finally bringing the football style that we like back. But the problem is, the players don't seem to be able to do it because they haven't got the stamina. And I feel like Slot's method of slow football has probably knocked that out of them. But if he can get, third is a good starting spot, back up from fifth, maybe go on a cup run somewhere decently in the Champions League, I'd be happy. And yeah, if he can just not have a drastic fall off like Slot did after winning the league, because our expectations are now, I think I've seen actually with the most pessimistic fans in the league. So yeah, I've got hope for Liverpool this season. And second, a bit higher than I thought I'd get them, I've got Manchester United. I do like Carrick as a manager. He did well last season as a interim manager. He's now got himself the permanent job. He's got Premier League winning experience himself as a manager. You've got the likes of Bruno Fernandes, broke the assist record last season and then disappeared in the World Cup. But I think back in the Premier League will do him good. Their midfield obviously options are stacked because they've got Tielemans and Santos now, as well as Mainu, and I've seen rumours that Baleba might be having a medical there, I think, or that would be a great signing for them again. Defence is probably their big weak point. I think they've got decent options. If they could get maybe a full back and a centre back, that might be good for them because De Ligt's disappeared. Martinez is, a bit aggressive at times, and Maguire has, finally come good, but he might drop off again. Plus he's like 32 now, and he's only contracted until next June. But if Lamens needs a bit of confidence because he's we had a fumble in the World Cup, so he needs to build confidence back up. But their attack is also fantastic, and again, I rate Man United. Unfortunately, as a Liverpool fan, it's annoying to say, but I do rate Man United's team, and I think second is a good season, and I think they'll actually title for the challenge. Oh my God, sorry, challenge for the title, which leaves Arsenal in first. Again, it's just obvious decision. They're Premier League champions, reigning champions, and I think they will have a good season. They will definitely, have a mixed bag at times, and if they need to start playing nice football, against Man City in the Community Shield, they actually played some very nice football. Like the Martin Odegaard goal, for example, was beautiful. But Arteta, he knows what he's doing now. He's finally got cracked the code. If they can, Saliba's out for a few months, which is a big miss. But they've got Gabriel. They're signing Konza supposedly. Raya is probably the best keeper in the world right now. The big issue is striker because Gyökeres, he actually had a decent season, but not as good as they'd hoped. But if he can start challenging the likes of Haaland, Thiago, and hopefully Isak, and maybe even Šeško for the Golden Boot, then Arsenal are undefeatable because they've got their defence sorted, their midfield's fantastic with the likes of Rice, Odegaard, Guimaraes now, even Zubimendi's still there, and Saka, if he can stay fit, is a good player on his day. They've also still looking for a left winger. They've got Zollis, who actually looks fantastic. They obviously might still want a superstar, but Zollis looked great against Man City, so I don't think they need that. But yeah, Arsenal are going to win the league, in my opinion, and then relegated Crystal Palace, Ipswich, Hull. Champions League, if it's 5 teams, it'll be Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool, Aston Villa, Man City. Europa League, if it's 2 teams, well, not 2 teams, if it's 6th and 7th, would be Chelsea and Tottenham, and Brighton in 8th in the Conference League. So let me know what your predictions are for the Premier League in the comments. I appreciate you watching this video. I know it's been a bit rushed. It's just been technical difficulties, and I wanted to get it out before tomorrow. So thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great season, and in fantasy football I'll make a post about that as well. Let me know again what your predictions are in the comments, which team you're supporting, which teams you'll think will go down, and have a great day, and I'll see you all soon.